Your phone buzzes. You look. Nothing important. You look again anyway. You know this feeling. You have felt it 100 times today. But the real answer for why you do this is far stranger than willpower or addiction. It goes back long before phones existed. Long before screens existed at all. Your brain was not built for notifications. It was built for something else entirely. Something that once meant the difference between eating dinner and becoming dinner. Think about your hand right now. Notice how it wants to move toward your pocket. That is not a habit you chose. That is a circuit you inherited. For most of human history, checking your surroundings was not a distraction. It was survival. Every rustle in the grass might be wind, or it might be a predator. The humans who checked, who looked twice, who stayed alert to small changes in their environment, lived longer than the ones who did not. They passed that alertness down. You are descended from the checkers, not the ignorers. This is called hypervigilance, and it is not a flaw. It is a feature that kept your ancestors alive on the savannah for hundreds of thousands of years. Your brain still runs that same program today. It just has a new environment to scan. Instead of grass and shadows, it scans a glowing rectangle full of tiny social signals. Here's where it gets stranger. Your phone did not create this instinct, it hijacked one that was already there. Psychologist B.F. Skinner ran an experiment in the 1950s that explains almost everything about why you cannot put your phone down. He placed pigeons in a box with a lever. Press the lever, sometimes food appears, not always, just sometimes at random intervals. You might expect the pigeons to lose interest since the reward was unreliable. The opposite happened. The pigeons pressed the lever obsessively, far more than pigeons who got a reward every single time they pressed it. This is called a variable ratio reinforcement schedule, and it produces the most addictive behavior pattern known in psychology. Not certainty, uncertainty, not routine, randomness. Your phone runs on the exact same schedule. Sometimes you check it and there is nothing. Sometimes there's a message that makes your whole day better. You never know which one it will be. That unpredictability is not an accident of design. It is the entire design. Every time you unlock your screen, some part of your brain is running the same experiment as Skinner's pigeons. Press the lever. See what happens? Press it again. But there's a second layer to this, one that goes even deeper than reward schedules. It has to do with a person you have never met and never will. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar spent decades studying primate brains and social groups. He found a striking pattern. The size of a primate's brain, specifically the neocortex, correlates directly with the size of the social group that species can maintain. Bigger brain, bigger social circle. Using this relationship, Dunbar calculated a number for humans, around 150. This is now known as Dunbar's number. It represents the rough upper limit of stable social relationships a human brain can meaningfully track, not acquaintances, real relationships, the kind where you know how someone would react in a crisis. For nearly all of human history, 150 people was your entire world, your tribe, your village, everyone you would ever need to monitor for social standing, danger, or opportunity. Now think about your phone again. How many people can reach you at any moment? Hundreds. Thousands if you count every platform. Your ancient social tracking system, built for a village of 150, is now trying to process a world of millions. Your brain cannot tell the difference between a tribe member and a stranger's comment on the internet. Both register as social information. Both trigger the same ancient alertness. Every notification feels, on some unconscious level, like someone from your tribe might need your attention right now. This is why ignoring your phone feels almost physically uncomfortable. You are not just resisting a bad habit. You are overriding a survival instinct that once kept entire communities alive by keeping everyone socially connected and alert to each other. There is a third piece to this puzzle, and it might be the strangest one. It involves a chemical you have heard of but probably misunderstand. Dopamine is often called the pleasure chemical, but that is not quite right. Neuroscientist Wolfram Schultz discovered something different while studying dopamine in the 1990s. Dopamine does not spike when you get a reward. It spikes when you anticipate one. Especially monkeys received a reward paired with a signal. Over time, dopamine stopped firing at the reward itself. Instead, it fired at the moment of anticipation, right before the outcome was known. The chemical was not about pleasure. It was about prediction, about the gap between not knowing and finding out. This means the dopamine hit from your phone does not come from the message itself. It comes from the second before you look. The reaching, the unlocking, the brief window where anything could be waiting for you, Put these three things together: a brain wired for constant environmental scanning, a social tracking system built for 150 people now facing millions, a reward chemical that fires hardest on uncertainty, not satisfaction. Your phone did not build a new kind of craving. It found three ancient ones already sitting inside you, unused since the age of villages and grasslands, and gave them something to do again. This is not a story about weakness. Every person carrying a phone today is running software optimized over hundreds of thousands of years for a world that no longer exists. The instinct to check is not broken. It is simply pointed at the wrong target now, and it does not know that. So what do you do with this? You cannot delete an instinct that took hundreds of thousands of years to build, but you can understand it enough to work with it instead of against it. Notice the reach before you make it. That small gap, the one Schultz found the dopamine hiding in, is also the one place you have any real choice, not after you have already unlocked the screen. Before. Some people set their phones to grayscale, removing the bright color cues that hijack visual attention. Others turn off notifications entirely, so there is no variable reward schedule running in the background. Others simply leave the phone in another room during the hours that matter most. None of these fix the instinct. They just remove its favorite lever, because that is what your phone really is. Not a source of connection or information first. A lever. And you, descended from 100,000 generations of checkers and scanners and social trackers, will press it, sometimes, whether there is food behind it or not. Consider what this hypervigilance actually cost your ancestors, because it was not free. Staying alert all day burns energy. It pulls attention away from eating, resting, mating, everything else that mattered. Evolution does not keep expensive traits around for no reason. It keeps them because, on balance, across thousands of generations, the humans who paid that energy cost survived more often than the ones who did not. Every time your leg twitches toward your pocket, you are watching a very old, very expensive insurance policy still being paid out long after the danger it was built for disappeared. There is a term for what happens when the system runs without an off switch. Researchers studying stress physiology call it allostatic load, the cumulative wear on your body from a stress response that keeps firing even when there is no actual threat. Your ancestors' alertness had a natural limit. The predator would leave or it wouldn't, and either way, the tension resolved within minutes. Your phone never resolves. There is always another notification possible. The grass never stops moving. This is part of why so many people report feeling exhausted by their phones without being able to say exactly why. It is not the content. It is the system running in the background, scanning, always slightly braced, never quite allowed to stand down. Now, return to Dunbar and his number for a moment, because there is a detail people often miss. Dunbar did not just find a ceiling, he found layers. Inside that outer circle of 150, humans maintain smaller, tighter circles. Around 5 people you would call for help at 3 in the morning, around 15 close friends, around 50 good friends. Each layer requires more attention and more emotional investment than the one outside it. Your brain allocates its social energy carefully, in rings, based on how much it can afford to track closely. Your phone flattens all of this. A message from your closest friend and a message from someone you met once at a conference arrive in the same font, the same size, the same buzz. Your ancient ranking system, the one that spent hundreds of thousands of years learning to tell the difference between a person who would die for you and a person who barely knows your name, gets no help at all from the interface. It has to do that sorting itself instantly for every single alert all day long. That sorting is not free either. It is one more reason a full inbox feels heavier than it should. The part Wolfram Schultz's monkeys revealed almost by accident. His research went further than the basic finding that dopamine fires on prediction rather than reward. He also found that when a reward became fully predictable, When the monkeys knew for certain it was coming, the dopamine response nearly vanished. Certainty killed the chemical. Only uncertainty kept it alive. This is precisely why a phone set to deliver messages at fixed times, say once every hour on the hour, would lose most of its pull within days. The brain would learn the pattern and stop anticipating between checks. But that is not how any major platform is built, and this is not an accident of engineering. It is the direct, deliberate application of Skinner's variable ratio findings, translated from a lab with pigeons into a piece of glass that lives in 30 billion pockets. There is a name researchers use for the resulting feeling, coined more recently than Skinner or Schultz, but built entirely on their foundations. Fear of missing out, now shortened to an acronym you have probably typed yourself. Studies on the phenomenon, including work led by psychologist Andrew Przybylski at Oxford, found that people with higher fear of missing out check their phones more frequently during activities like driving, eating, and even conversations, specifically because the uncertainty of what they might be missing outweighed the certainty of what was in front of them. The ancient system evaluating grass and shadows now evaluates group chats and read receipts using the exact same logic. Something might be happening. You cannot afford not to know. None of this means you are powerless in front of it. Understanding a system is the first real leverage you have against it, when you know that the pull is not weakness but architecture. 3 separate ancient systems repurposed by design. You can start making changes that work with your actual wiring. Instead of scolding yourself for lacking discipline, you are never going to summon through willpower alone. The point of all this is not that you should feel bad about the last time you checked your phone 40 times in an hour. 40 times in an hour would have been completely reasonable behavior for a human standing in the tall grass at dusk. The problem was never the checking. The problem is that the grass never stops moving anymore, and nobody told your nervous system where the field actually ends. Tonight, when your phone buzzes, notice the half second before you look. That half second is not new. Your ancestors felt a version of it every time the grass moved. You just call it something else now.